But this was something that when I was coming up learning makeup, guys, this was not something you did. And when I first heard about this trick, I was like, sir, who the told you you could do this? Because I was always taught the opposite. How are you guys doing? Honestly, like, have you guys really checked in with yourself? Because you look great, you smell great, probably. I feel like today's gonna be a very, very big learning video. There's so many like questions and like blown minds. I was gonna say something else, but and there's always like a what? Like, you just don't put creams on top of powders. Like, that's just not how it works. It's always powder your creams, not cream your powders. That sounded dirty too. Ew. So we're gonna go step by step here, and I'm gonna show you guys how to achieve a really flawless but also very long-lasting face, because us greasy chickens, it's our favorite time of the year, guys. Okay, it's summertime, and in my area, I'm from California and not from Northern California, so we're those people that are like, yeah, but it's a dry heat. It is a dry heat, but for those of you guys who are in the humidity, I know this is gonna help, because a bitch lived in Maryland and got the humidity, and I just beef over there. And it's basically setting your primer, which is so weird, but we're gonna do that. So all you're gonna do is grab some of your favorite primers. I'm gonna do a mixture of my Nivea Men's Post Shea Balm and my Laura Mercier Perfecting silicone-free primer. You're not gonna need a lot. The trick, period, to having a face that's gonna last, you guys, is thin layers. And I mean that. Like, literally think of thin layers. Less is more. You don't need a lot of primer on the skin. And if it starts feeling like you literally have a film on your skin, you did too much, okay? Do less. But I do a thin layer of it, and I try to press it into my skin the most I possibly can, because at the end of the day, like, your primer should be your first layer of makeup, and you never ever want a thick layer of cake. The next step, I like to think of this step as you are setting your primer, because that's technically what you're doing. Like, in a technical sense, like, if we're gonna be technical in a technical way about things being technical, you're just setting your primer. So you can do this with a translucent powder. Anything works. I'm going to use my Urban Decay All Nighter. This doesn't smell like anything. I don't know why I smell it so much, but this is my waterproof setting powder, and this is a mattifying waterproof setting powder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little Velour Puff. This is just the first one I grabbed. My Blendiful is super dirty, and I don't want to get up and watch it, okay? Gonna grab this Velour Puff that Miss Laura Mercier sent me in PR. Thank you, baby girl. Totes preach. I am going to literally just grab it with my Velour Puff, and we are going to set our primer. Not everywhere. I only set in the areas where I get very oily, which is my T-zone. So I'm only really gonna set my T-zone. And just like the primer, I'm gonna try and do a thin layer and really press it onto the skin. And now we're just gonna set that powder down and prime with our makeup setting spray. I'm gonna be using my Urban Decay Pollution Protection All Nighter makeup setting spray. So basically we really are priming as usual, because this is what I would do. I would put on my primer, wait for my primer to set, and then spray my priming spray. But we just added another step, which is basically just setting down the powder. Again, us oily girls, guys, this is something we need to just literally keep our oils under control. And it is another step, but I'm telling you guys, it's literally, once you implement it in your routine, it takes no time at all. 5 more seconds of something that's going to make your makeup last another 3 hours shine free. It cancels itself out, okay? And it's all about the balance. Now, the trick to this is to really let all this kind of set itself down. I don't really like to go in with a face that's too wet. I like it to get a little bit tacky, but not necessarily wet. And it gets more tacky when it dries down. Still though, sticking with the theme of like, we're gonna move in really thin layers. I'm gonna be using my Collab Nourishing Foundation. I use the shade Golden 4.5. Again, guys, think really thin layers. Paint thin layers of your foundation on. Now you're gonna go in with your little beauty blender or whatever you have, because this isn't a beauty blender. This is like a $2 one from Shop Miss A, or like AOA brand is what it is. Blend it all out. Wasn't that cool? I know you guys are probably wondering, but Gloria, what about that powder you used before? That's where the technique really comes into play, guys, okay? That's why you really have to be careful and apply a really thin layer of the powder. Like if I were to just go in and pop the powder on and look like a Coke core, then yeah, the cream would latch onto the powder and it wouldn't be too good. But because I went in very thin layers and really pressed in the product with my velour puff and really pressed in the powder, the primers, and I work in these really thin layers and build things up. Like think of a house. If you just layer shit on it, it's gonna look like a pile of poop. But if you were to go in like these really thin layers and know exactly how everything is placed, then you got a house. Probably. I don't know. I worked in construction, but barely. I personally am completely okay with this coverage. If you guys want to go ahead and build up more, all you would do is grab your little painting brush or your little foundation brush, get more foundation on and paint it on. And again, just working these really thin layers. And the reason I use both of these guys is because this is going to paint you a thin layer. Super dope, right? But this is going to absorb all excess product that's going to prevent you from getting cakey and getting too thickums in the face. Because any excess makeup that you don't necessarily blend into the face is going to be the first thing to melt off first. And when it does, it's not going to look cute, sis. I don't know who told you it would, but it doesn't. We're gonna do the same exact thing, ma. We're gonna put a good amount of it on the back of our hands, and you're gonna paint on your concealer. And then grab your beauty sponge, and then again, this will absorb all the excess while still blending it out. Now, once you're all blended out and you are sure that all excess product is really blended off and absorbed, you're gonna go ahead and set. I'm just gonna go ahead and use the same Urban Decay powder. And at first I am just gonna set with the brush just to prevent any creasings. And then I'm gonna go in with, again, a velour puff. You can use the same exact velour puff. Grab a bunch of powder as much as you can, but not like too much. And wherever you really get the oiliest, guys. I don't get oily around my face. It's just my T-zone, so I really only focus on the T-zone. But I'm just going to set, and again, kind of really press in the powder where I get the most oiliest. And then we're gonna grab a big old fluffy brush. Let's use this one because you need one that's like really kind of bouncy and feathery, because this is gonna sweep off all the excess powder that, again, you don't need. And then with whatever the excess powder is that you're moving around on the face, you're going to set the entire face a little bit. But again, that's really not your main focus. Another thing this does is it really makes you look so much more poreless. Like you can't see your pores if you do this step. And now you are super powdered. I promise you, this is gonna extend your makeup by at least 1 to 2 hours, keep you completely shine free. Now, this is something I only ever do in the summertime or on days where I know I really need my makeup to last, because this can make you feel a little dry. And if you have dry skin, click the F out of this video because you don't need this, ma. And this will actually hurt you instead of benefiting you. This is really just for my oily little grease buckets out there. This is gonna really help your makeup stay in place. Not only give you a beautiful, flawless complexion, but it's gonna give you the most epic wear time of your life. This is a makeup look that, honestly, if I ever want to get ready in the summer, this is what I do. These are the steps that I take. If I'm doing my makeup in a rush in the fall or in a winter, I don't really need to take these necessary steps. But for summer makeup, this is something I always do. I have oily skin, guys. This is just something that I have learned I have to work with. Even though I love my oily skin, she's a little high maintenance at times, and she can be a little bit of a B word to deal with. But so super grateful I have oily skin. I've just found ways to combat it, whether it be with skincare, skin prep, makeup, and all that stuff, friends. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys learned a thing or two. I love you guys so much, oily grease chicken or not, and I will see you in my next video.